Welcome, everybody, and we will start the meeting with the reading of our guidelines. So let me see if I can put that up. All right. As I said, good evening. My name is Barbara Stronzer, and I am currently interim chair of Community Board 7 in the Bronx.
Just gonna stay on mute, huh?
The committee agenda, you will see in a few minutes. On September 22nd, Mayor Adams issued Executive Order 210, extending the state of emergency through October 22nd. That's this Saturday. Accordingly, boards are able to continue to act under the state of emergency section of the video conferencing law. This allows the board to continue remotely. Minutes and video recording will be made available on our website. If you are calling into the meeting on a conference call, the following controls will be used. To hear all available commands, enter ** on your phone, *6 to mute or unmute yourself, *9, virtually raise your hand. We will be running this meeting as follows. Bronx Community Board 7 has the right to remove or to ask a member of the public to leave a meeting or block participation of anyone who engages in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene or offensive images or language, personal attacks, threats, or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting. Repeated offenses will be reviewed by the board's executive committee or any other assigned committee for a ban of the participant in the event of repeated disruptive behavior. If in-person outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace and the authorities will be summoned. Everyone beside the speaker or presenter will stay muted throughout the meeting. After each presentation is over, I will inquire if committee members have questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by pressing the raised hand button on your screen or requesting to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. All right, I'm not going to read the next section since it's an executive committee meeting and as in the past, the public doesn't get a chance to speak. Only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair in new business or addressed at the next meeting, granted there is time and the committee agrees on the topic. Following the questions, discussion, and public comment portion, the committee will begin their discussion after each presentation or agenda item and will conclude with the decision to vote on a recommendation. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. If there are any questions related to the meeting software or to our process, please use the chat function to raise your hand function now or contact the district manager. Okay. All right. And we will move on. I would like to welcome everybody, and this is a meeting usually for the chairs of each committee and our elected representatives here on Community Board 7. Other community board members are welcome to attend, but they are not required to come to the executive committee meeting unless they're a chair of a committee. All right, I'll start with the attendance. All right. Barbara Stronzer, I'm here. Eric Asensio. Eric? Not yet, okay. Betty Arce?
Betty Arce present.
Thank you. Yahira Arias?
Yahira Arias present.
Thank you.
Eric Asensio present.
Okay, thank you. I'll change that right now, Eric. Michelle Avila?
Michelle Avila present.
Good, thank you. Andrew Leosa?
Andrew Leosa present.
Thank you. Edgar Ramos?
Edgar Ramos present.
Thank you. Larissa Costa,
Larissa Costa present.
thank you. Shad Royer,
Chad Royer, present.
thank you. And Victor Saldana.
Victor Saldana, present.
Okay, thank you. We have perfect attendance. That's great. All right. Now we have minutes to review from the previous meeting. Let's see if I can find those. Okay, these are from our September 15th Executive Committee meeting. I'll just scroll slowly. We have the DM's updates. We had a motion from Parks regarding Poe Park. We talked about our budget for next year. We talked about the process for voting for a new chair. All right. Anybody have any additions or corrections?
Yes, Barbara, I was not present. I see I'm checked off there.
Okay, you were not present at that meeting, is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay, our secretary will have to correct that. All right, thank you for letting me know. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the last executive committee meeting?
I move to
Motion.
approve the minutes.
Okay,
As amended, as amended.
as amended, and is that second?
Second, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody in opposition? All right, the ayes carry. All right, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is our district manager's update. And she has requested for a few minutes that we go into executive session. So I need a motion to go into executive session. Can someone provide that?
Motion
I
to go
move to-
into executive
to-
session.
All right, do we have a second on Yahira's motion?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody against? All right, the ayes carry. Okay, Carla, can you move us into executive session, please?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do
Okay.
it. Just for everyone else, just give us a few minutes. We'll be right back in the room.
Yes, won't be long.
This is always fun. It's like,
Don't lose us.
yeah, it's it's always fun. Just be patient because I have to click on this one by one. Then I have to review it to make sure I didn't click the wrong person. Okay. You should be getting a little box on your screen.
Yep.
Carla, did you get it too? Andrew, Eric, click the box. Eric, Andrew,
Don't see any box.
I mean, you got the invite. I don't know how to do this. No, I don't. I mean, you I don't know, I don't know how to, ugh. Andrew, you sure you don't see it? Eric? No, this is not good. I don't know. Once you are invited, I can't re-invite you. Um,
I'm on audio, so I don't have to be on video. I can hear. I don't know if that's,
no. Can you log on? You're just on audio. That could be it.
I mean, I have video too, but I guess they're linked, right? If
So you can see us right now.
I can only see 3 of the non-board members.
Okay. Can you log off and log back in?
Sure.
I'm
Got it.
sorry, but yeah, like you need to be here,
Okay, I'll
so,
do that.
all right.
Yep.
This always reminds me of the Brady Bunch every time. Where's Barbara? Oh, okay. You're muted, Barbara.
Thank you. All right, I believe we have everybody back in public session, so we can continue with our agenda. The next item on the agenda, an update by our district manager, Aisha, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep this short and sweet. This one will be a long one. You will be reviewing capital and expense request. Everyone has received those documents. As you know, we're always a little behind on that one, not to our fault, right? We're off in the summer, so when we come back, it's a lot to work on. I'll just leave it there. With that, that's the most pressing thing. And the EEO, if you haven't done that, please do so. Because the borough president's office next move is to remove members for non-compliance. And I would hate to lose anybody.
Okay, I believe everybody got the form and the information and whatever.
So I did fill it out and I sent it to Tom and I copied, I think Carla and Aisha, just to make sure, because I'm not sure. I don't know if we get a receipt of some sort that it was received.
All right, thank
I'm
you.
gonna send an email out tomorrow for everybody to check the form that they did, because the one they originally sent had the old former Bronx Borough president on it, and they sent me a new one. So I'll send an email just for everybody to just take a quick look, and if it's wrong, you're gonna have to redo it again and submit it.
But will we get a new one that has the?
They will email, they should email you, but I'll circulate the one that I got. So in case you have to, you already have it, and just submit it.
No, I sent the digital signature, which I assume is acceptable.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I did. Whatever I received, I filled out and sent back. So hopefully it was the right one. All right, anything else, Aisha?
Capital and expense. I can't stress that enough. That
Okay,
needs to be
all right.
done and submitted ASAP.
Okay. All right, chairperson's update, just to say that at our meeting next week, our general meeting, we will be taking nominations for the position of chair. And then in November, I plan to give each candidate maybe 2 minutes to introduce themselves and let the board know what their plans are for the future, if any. And then I'll open it up for another 2 minutes to questions to each of the candidates. At this point, I'm sure we will have a couple of candidates and we'll see how things go. All right, next item, I believe, Betty, you brought up something about donations for the immigrants. Does anyone know if there's any facility around?
Migrants.
Whatever.
No, it's not whatever. It's not whatever.
Well,
That's
not what I
important.
read in the newspaper. Check
It's
the
not,
Times.
we have to
Okay.
be mindful how we refer to people. So it's migrants.
Well, read the Times. Betty, you had mentioned something about donations. Do you know of any place locally that may take?
No, I don't. I was
Oh,
asking
anything?
about that.
Yes, does
Okay.
anybody know of any local place that will accept donations? Not
Of
yet.
clothes, of supplies. of-
Supplies, right, things like
So
that.
I do know that clothes are something they're pushing back from. But they are taking other items. So we can reach out to the BP's office. Maybe I'm sure they're doing something.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on. Do we have any motions this month?
No.
I don't see any here on the agenda. Do we have any motions?
Barbara,
No.
I have one, but I wasn't able to submit it in time, so my meeting was yesterday.
Do you have it with you or whatever?
I can read it.
All right, this was voted upon when, Chad, in your committee?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. All right, if no one is in opposition to Chad reading it. Go ahead, Chad.
All right, let me see if I can pull it up. I apologize, I'm not able to share the screen because I have a problem with my computer. So the motion is for CB7 to file a parks permit at Bronx Victory Memorial for a veterans flagging event. And recommended action. In the past, there was a veterans group who used to take part in looking after the monuments, but that group no longer exists and not a lot has been done outside of basic maintenance by the Parks Department. It has been said that it would be a good gesture for to the neighborhood and veteran advocates to have a dedicated group continue to provide support and hold ceremonies during holiday themes like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, etc. Little background, the monument was created by Jerome Connor in 1925, and it symbolizes the sacrifices made by local servicemen who served and died in the World War I. So our committee voted in, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to be clear on the motion. The motion's for the permit.
But he's going to, I think, explain what he is asking us
Right.
to do. Go ahead, Chad.
So we voted in favor of the motion because we wanted to be able to sponsor or co-sponsor a flagging event, but being that it's considered part of Parks jurisdiction, there might be a need for securing a permit in order to do it.
To do the flagging, you mean?
Right.
Wait,
As
so
a-
Chad, I'm sorry, so it's, you're asking for CB7 to file a permit?
Because I may need the vote of the board to go forward.
No, I understand, but I'm trying to make clarification. So this is a motion for a permit, right?
For a permit from CB7 for
Yeah, that's-
flagging the World War I monument, right?
Okay.
Am I
Right.
correct, Chad?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, where is it located?
It's located on Mashulu and Marion Avenue.
Okay,
You don't need a motion to file for a permit.
Well, we
You-
are,
you-
if we're going to sponsor it, I think he needs to, get everybody's support behind it, no?
Yeah, but you don't need a motion for the permit, right? He needs a motion for the actual event.
What he's doing, right?
Right, so this is why I'm asking, right? You don't need a motion for the permit. So your motion is to host the event, Chad, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's make sure that that's noted because there's confusion right now. I don't need a motion for the permit.
No. But we need a
Okay.
motion to go forward.
I understand, Barbara, let me finish. I understand. I need clarification because we're, at the end of the day, the staff is gonna execute. So I need to be clear on this. So Chad, you're good with the permit, just make sure that we understand in this motion, if you have dates in mind and things like that, so we can work with you offline.
Yeah, we do have some dates in mind. Do I have to disclose the dates now or offline?
You could do it offline, just you're asking for consensus for this event right now. Offline,
Yes.
we could work those kinks out.
Exactly.
Would the dates coincide with the holidays you mentioned, Chad, such as Veterans Day and Memorial Day, or somewhere in that, close to that time?
In this case, we want to do it for the Veterans Day theme, but it doesn't have to be on Veterans Day. So ideally, we would like to do it in November, worst case scenario, early December
okay.
Or this year for this one?
this year, right?
Okay,
All right.
Chad, will this also transition for May, for like Memorial Day as well?
We would like to, but I wasn't sure if it made sense to do it together or if I should do it separately.
Okay,
So I was just concentrating on now, but if folks are okay with amending the motion to accommodate Memorial Day and Veterans Day, we can go forth.
Right, I mean, I almost see a motion that CB7 will be coordinating or celebrating, our veterans by doing some activity at the site
Flag.
on holidays such as Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So, you know, you don't have to do it every single year. The motion is there that this is something that the committee and the board will be doing on an ongoing basis. Something
Yeah,
like
that's what I was
Exactly.
trying to establish, Chad, so that this is something that it happens every year. This doesn't go away. So-
Right.
So this is something that we can be, I guess, if we want to use the word, make it a tradition within CB7 to have this every year on those holidays.
Exactly.
Okay,
Andrew has his hand up.
Oh, Andrew, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Go ahead, Andrew. You're muted.
The question is there a request for a budget item for purchasing things like flags or whatever you may need?
So there is, but I also got some information from a neighborhood group that they do have flags available to provide. Now, if I were to request flags from the CB7 side, what would be the best route to go?
We could just order the flags. You don't need a motion for such small items like that. It's only for large purchases.
Okay, because that's the only thing that I foresee. Unless unless a group wants to expense flowers, but I'm not even focusing on flowers at this point. I'm just focusing on the event itself.
I'm sure we can also like put feelers out there for sponsors too. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't, yeah, just tell us what your thoughts are offline and we will be helpful.
Okay,
Got
sounds good.
got you.
Chad, CC me with that motion so I can properly add them to the minutes, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna fluff it up tonight and make sure it's nice.
Thank you.
Okay, Andrew, do you have another question? Your hand is up, or did you forget to take it down?
Forgot.
Okay, all right, do we have to get a second on the motion and take a vote before we send it off to the board next week? Do we have a second on Chad's motion?
Jahira Arias seconds the motion.
All right, can we take a vote, Jahira?
Can
I think Andrew wants,
somebody, the motion, I thought there was no need for a motion. Why are we doing a motion?
no, there's no motion for the permit, but we're doing a motion for the establishment of this tradition.
Tradition, exactly.
To host it during, for veterans holidays and
Right.
make it official for every year.
All right, any other comments before we go to vote?
I think we should be more specific. I'm sorry. I mean, like, we should have dates. You know, it should be more precise. It's such a general, I don't know, let's,
I think the general idea is that we would sponsor flagging at this monument.
Or any other kind of tribute or honor. you know.
Tribute or honor, yes, thank you.
So maybe I can answer your question, Andrew, on that.
you.
The idea was to have the events for the Veterans Day holiday and for the Memorial Day holiday, but it doesn't necessarily have to fall on that day, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Mhm.
I just have a quick question, if I could.
Go ahead.
Now, is this responsibility gonna fall upon the community board staff, or does it stay with the committee?
All right, good point.
If I may, this will be similar to the tree lighting, where
Right.
the committee kind of talks about it, and obviously we deal with the logistics and work with the committee. So
Right,
Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, but it'll be a similar kind of scenario.
right, that would make sense to me,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
It's a collaborative effort. That's what
Right.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah. All right, anything, any other comments before we vote?
Just for Chad, can you just give us the, change the wording?
Wording a little
so
bit?
Everybody's on the same page?
On the current motion,
Yes.
Yes,
okay, I need to get out of the screen. So the motion is for CB7 to coordinate veterans flagging events at Bronx Victory Memorial for Veterans Day and Memorial Day holidays annually.
All right.
Just,
You have that, Yahira?
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Chad?
That's it.
Okay.
we want to restrict it geographically to just that location?
That's
Or-
the only one we have.
I
Like
think it's a
other-
good start. And then we can move on from there if there are other locations.
So if
The
I can,
only
an-
one-
if I can answer that,
Go ahead.
in this case, I think it makes sense to highlight this location because there was a time where we had a veterans group that was responsible for doing things, and that no longer exists. And since that monument has been there since 1925, I think it would set some kind of a precedence. Now, we could always do something else beyond that going forward. So I think this would be a good step for those who have been asking for it. If that makes any sense.
I agree, totally agree.
Yes, and I agree with you, Chad. And having lived in that particular neighborhood a long time, I remember when on Memorial Day, they would set up the stage that we use for the tree lighting right behind that monument. And we had many veterans, we had musical accompaniment,
Right, yes.
whatever. It was a lovely ceremony. So I'm happy that we're going to start something at that site.
Okay.
And it's my honor and privilege to bring this forth.
Great, thank
All
you.
right, we'll take a vote then. Barbara Stranza votes yes on the motion. All right, Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio abstains.
okay. All right, Betty Arce,
Betty Arce approves.
Yahira Arias,
Shahira Arias approves.
thank you. Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila approves.
all right, Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leos approves the motion.
thank you. Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos approves the motion.
Luris Acosta,
Luis approves.
thank you. Chad Royer,
Chad Roy approves the motion.
Victor Saldana,
And Victor Saldana approves the motion.
okay, thank you. Motion carries,
Thank you, everyone.
okay. All right, we'll move the agenda. I believe we have someone here from the Kingsbridge Armory Working Group. Am I correct in assuming that?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, we've got a couple people here from the New York City Economic Development.
Okay, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Nate Gray. I'm a vice president at in the Neighborhood Strategies Department at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. And
Yeah, I'm Inder Garwal, Senior Project Manager of Neighborhood Strategy at the EDC.
Okay,
we've got a short presentation. We can take the executive committee through about the work that we're doing in partnership with Sandra Lobo of the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition and Councilwoman Pierina Sanchez. It touches on the community working group, but it talks overall about the engagement process that we're going through to define a vision for the future of the Armory. So we wanted to go through that with you tonight and then answer any questions that you have and then talk about how we're going to involve the public and involve this board throughout. So I'll turn it over to Inder to take us through.
all right, go ahead, Inder.
All right, thank you. Can you all see my screen?
Yes,
Great, thanks.
It's a little hard to hear you. If you could just probably
Yes.
pull the mic closer to your mouth.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Still.
All right, can you all hear me now? Or is it any better?
Yeah, we can, but it's very, it sounds like you're really far away and some folks may have a hard time.
Yeah, it sounds muffled, yeah. Okay, this is the screen.
All right, is this any better or am I still coming up muffled?
It's still far away.
Wait,
Okay, well, in that case, I'm gonna have Nate Bray kind of take the lead on this presentation.
Sure.
My audio isn't coming up.
Sure. So you can jump to the next slide. Inder, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, you can just jump to the next slide, Inder.
Okay.
So tonight we want to go through just a few things. We want to talk about what we're doing, what's our goal for when we talk about the Kingsbridge Armory Community Working Group and the Kingsbridge Armory vision document. We want to make sure that you understand what we're actually doing and what in this step of the process and how it relates to the overall redevelopment of the Armory. We're going to talk a little bit about who we're working with, who's on the community working group, which includes a representation from the community board, and then talk about our schedule for the next few months, and then ultimately, what are we producing? So we want to, we'll go through each of those questions. Next slide, please. So you've probably seen, in the press, and you probably know that there's an effort right now to define a vision for the Kingsbridge Armory, to define how the community wants the Armory to be ultimately developed. And so EDC has started to work on that process in partnership with a consulting group and with Councilmember Piorina Sanchez and with Northwest Bronx, as well as with the community working group. So our work together through this fall and through the winter will ultimately culminate in what we call the vision for the Armory. What that really is it's what the community wants to have happen in the Armory, how they see and how all of you see the Armory as a place to fulfill the priorities that you have for the community. What that vision will be is what we say here, the foundation for a future request for proposal. So ultimately, EDC will issue that request for proposals to developers to come and redevelop the Armory. As it was, we've done that twice in the past. And so what we want to do is within that RFP to have the community's vision at the forefront, to be able to say, these are the goals that we want to achieve through the redevelopment of the Armory. So we'll be working in partnership with the people I just described throughout the fall and in the spring. And our outreach is really at its heart, it's an attempt to get as many people involved in the process as we possibly can, to hear as many voices as we possibly can, and to rely on the partnerships and the relationships in the community so that we can speak to as many of those people. Ultimately, our goal is, so we want to be able to, in that outreach, have everybody understand what are the opportunities that the Armory presents, what are the challenges of redeveloping it, and what are the trade-offs? Because unfortunately, we can't do everything with the Armory that we possibly want, but we want to be able to have an honest conversation about what are those trade-offs and what are those challenges. So next slide, please. And throughout this, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask me any questions. And I know you have a busy agenda, so I'll just try and go through this as quickly as I can. So what we try and do at the Economic Development Corporation is when we do projects like this, we try and bring together as many community voices as we possibly can and bring those from key organizations throughout the community. And in this case, we've brought together what we call the Kingsbridge Armory Community Working Group, and that includes representatives from Community Board 7. This group is really instrumental and central to how we do our work because we need to be able to understand who we're going to speak to, how should we ask the questions, what are the important questions to ask, who are the important people to speak with, the important organizations to speak with. And so we couldn't do that without working hand in hand with a community working group. And we held our first working group meeting about 2 weeks ago. And we'll continue to meet with them throughout the process. We're going to meet once a month. The group is co-chaired by Sandra Lobo, the executive director of Northwest Bronx, and Councilmember Piorina Sanchez. And it includes roughly 25 organizations. I'll show in the next slide who they are, but just to give you a sense of the responsibilities of those organizations. So again, they meet once a month. We're looking for participation in public workshops and community events to promote our community workshops throughout the neighborhood and to provide feedback and review on a timely basis. So that's a pretty dry way of saying it, but they're very, very central to how we do our work. Next slide, please. So these are the members of the community working group. I'll go through it quickly. The co-chairs at the top on my left, including also representatives from the other elected officials' offices of the borough president, Congressmember Espaillat, State Senator Gustavo Rivera, and Assemblymember Jose Rivera. We're going to be briefing the incoming elected officials who are coming in but are not currently seated. So we'll brief them, and then when they assume their positions, they'll become members of the community working group. On the right side, we tried to get a balance of as many different perspectives as we could from labor and small businesses, faith-based organizations, health organizations, academic, economic development organizations, and community organizations. Because again, we want to have a broad range of perspectives, a broad range of values, and a broad range of voices in all of our outreach. And we'll send this deck to you afterwards. So if you have any questions after the presentation, you can jump in. Next slide, please. So I mentioned we're also working with a consultant team. We've hired 2 of them. The first is the Hester Street Collaborative, and they're going to be leading all of our public engagement. They're an organization that's based in Manhattan, but has had broad experience running similar projects throughout the city and throughout the Bronx. And so they'll be the ones who will be working with us to lead the public workshops, to plan for the public workshops, and running a series of other engagement events. We've hired a group called WXY to lead a consultant team, and their task is to really understand the building, understand its conditions, understand the constraints of the building, understand its zoning, what are the landmarks considerations, so that we can have a really deep understanding and perspective about its condition and what can be done to the building in the future. Next slide, please. So this is our schedule. So we went through what we're doing and who we're working with, and this is what we're actually doing over the course of time here. So shown in the blue bar is work that WXY is doing right now to understand the existing conditions of the building. And then underneath that, represented with the orange bar, are a series of small group and focus groups discussions that our outreach team, Hester Street Collaborative, is going to be leading. We're working towards a first public workshop that's going to be held on November 5th at PS 340, which is at the corner of 195th Street and Jerome Avenue. That'll be on a Saturday afternoon. So that's our most immediate upcoming public event. We're tentatively scheduled to have our second workshop in December. That's likely to be December 10th. And then we would have a third public workshop. I'm representing it here in January, but the date is still to be finalized. And then finally, a public event to unveil the vision itself. And so that would be in the spring. Did I hear a question? Nope. Okay. So next slide, please. So here's just a little bit more about the various ways we're trying to get people involved. Again, there's the first public workshop. Our goal with the public workshop is it says it's from 12 to 4, but you don't need to be there for the entirety of the time. The intention is to have this sort of like as an open house, to have this as a fun event. There will be childcare there. So we want to be able to get people to come. They can come in and they could do as little as just fill out a survey, or they could do as much as stay for a facilitated discussion that's going to last for roughly 45 minutes. So there's a spectrum of things that people could do. But we really want to take the time to make people aware of what we're doing, and get that initial take of what are your values, what's your vision for the Armory. And then future public workshops will build off of that, ultimately culminating in the vision. In parallel with the planning for and executing the public workshops, we're going to have focus group discussions with folks like retailers, faith organizations, health organizations, and do that through partnerships with our community groups, with the community working group, and to really get a grassroots feel for what people want in the Armory. And then community board meetings. Honestly, we're happy to come to anything. So if you want us to come to another committee meeting, you want to come to land use, you want us to come to the full board or back to the executive committee, we'll do it anytime. And then a project website. So that's a place where if somebody doesn't want to go to, doesn't have the time or the inclination to go to a workshop, they can go and they can find information about what we've done, what we're planning on doing, and then submit any questions. Next slide, please. So again, here's a little bit more detail about Public Workshop 1. I spoke about this primarily in the last slide, so I won't go into detail here. But really the heart of this is we've all been to a lot of meetings, you guys, especially at the community board. So our goal is to have a variety of things that people can do at the workshop to get their voice heard. And it's not the only time. Again, we're going to have one in December, another one in the spring, and a final one before we release the plan. Next slide, please. So just to say, like, ultimately, what is this process going to result in? What we say is a vision document, and that really is, it's taking all the comments we have heard, all of the ideas that are out there about what the Armory could be, what are the community's goals for the Armory, and then those would be synthesized into the vision document, and that vision document would accompany our future request for proposals. And so that step, the request for proposals, would be the step at which a developer would come into the project and be responsible for developing the Armory. But it's really important for us at the outset, before we get to that stage, to be able to hear from all of you and everybody in the neighborhood about what they want to achieve with the Armory. So a developer is coming in and they're responding to that. They're responding to what the community's wishes are. So we think that that's a really, like, the work that we're doing right now in partnership with the working group and in partnership with the community board is really fundamental in making sure that we have a project at the end that we're all really proud of, and one that we can say achieves the community's goals. So I think that's the last slide. So again, my name is Nate Gray. I don't think this will be the last time I see you, but it's nice to meet all of you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question. I may have missed it in the presentation. Do you have a representative from the Fordham bid on that committee? Because I know the Fordham shopping area is going to be greatly affected by whatever goes into the Armory.
I don't believe we do. I think we've got Inder, could you just page back to the community working group members? We have the Kingsbridge Merchants, and then I believe there's another Merchants Association, because I don't believe there's a bid directly on we have the Kingsbridge Merchants Association and Burnside Tremont Jerome Merchants Association.
But Fordham Road's bid is a lot closer than Tremont, that's for sure.
Yeah, we can, we EDC are going to be meeting in smaller focus group discussions with other small business organizations and other economic development organizations, and we'll make sure to speak with Fordham.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure. Is there a specific person there that we should reach out to?
Yes, what's the name of the head of the bid?
Alonso?
Yeah, I'll share that with Fernando.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Who from the community board is on this working group?
The district manager came to the first tour that we had. And then I have the list of names who was at the first meeting. And I had Jade, I might butcher the last name. It looks like it's Guzman.
Oh, she's a staff member, yes.
That's
Jade.
Jade.
Yes.
Do we want a board member on this group, Barbara?
So
I hope so.
the council member, I think she wanted, the reason why Jade went is because I couldn't go.
Mhm.
I believe she just wants the district manager for now. And then as the board finalizes the chair and all these things, I was told the EDC will then reassess that. But I think that that's how they're starting off.
Yeah, I believe that there was a conflict, Iskia, that night, that then you couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Andrew, you have your hand up?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if there was information as to what is not possible.
That's right.
I don't know, for example, a football stadium or floor can't hold. I mean, I think, right now it's so open-ended. We're going down directions that may be not worth discussing. That is, like can we build schools in the Armory? Issues like that, like what we can have.
Yeah, that's a really important point, Andrew, and something that came up in the first community working group meeting. This isn't an entirely open-ended conversation, right? People understand that not everything is possible in the building for a number of reasons. And so in our workshops, the cadence of the workshops, the first step of just getting what out there of like the vision, and then there'll be other workshops and building off of that in other workshops to talk about what are when we say zoning, what does that mean? What's allowed, what's not allowed?
Right.
The landmarks, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And so it wouldn't be fair to just expect like at one workshop for everybody to take that information in, distill it in their heads, think about what it is, and then be able to build off of that. So we want to be able to get people to that through a number of workshops in a number of different ways. But you're exactly right.
Any other questions?
Is
Yes.
there I'm sorry, go ahead, Loris.
Go ahead.
So hello, Nate. You mentioned that you guys plan to unveil in the spring. Is there a voting process or does EDC just have final say?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
You mentioned that there are plans to unveil what the plans will be in the spring. Is there a voting process or is it strictly
Good question.
EDC?
Frankly, it's one that well, to answer the second part first, no, we wouldn't just say, you said one thing and now we're going to do another thing. We wouldn't do that. But in terms of what the process would be to formalize it, I think we haven't gotten to the details of is there going to be exactly a voting process, but there'll certainly be with the working group a process to define the priorities. I don't know exactly what it is now, to be frank, but there will be. But it wouldn't come down to the community working group says they want this.
Got it.
He overrules it.
And last thing, I know, so the Hester team as a consultant for public engagement, is public engagement only going to be those public workshops and the webpage?
No, definitely not. The public engagement, sort of like the big events are the public workshops. Those are the ones that are like the big one-day events. Just as important as that, though, I think is really things like last weekend we were at the Councilwoman's Fall Fest. We had a table there. Another event, we're going to be at the Gardner Foundation's. I think they did a turkey giveaway in a few weeks. Next month, we'll be at that. We'll be at meetings like this. We'll be going to small group discussions with like those merchants associations. So it's definitely like small one-on-one conversations to smaller group conversations. And if anybody from the board wants us to have, wants us to do one with you guys, we would be happy to, or with an organization that you're a part of, we'd be happy to. So it's not just a big event in a website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be, this is Eric for the housing chair. I think that it would be beneficial to have you guys come to the housing and land use committee and host an event during that committee so people are able to share their thoughts about this process.
Happy to do it. My
We
colleague
can schedule it for the November meeting.
Eric broke up there. Did I hear it? I heard an invitation to the November meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Yeah, my colleague Fernando Ortiz is our government and community affairs person, and he's unfortunately not able to make it tonight, but I'll make sure that he connects with with the board to get us on the agenda there.
Okay, good. Any other concerns? Chad, is that your hand up? And I see Yahira too. Chad, you're first. Go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to mention, first off, Mr. Gray, thank you for the presentation.
It's going great.
Oh, thank you. PS 86 is the neighbor right next to the Armory. You might want to include them as one of the folks that you reach out to.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a contact at the PTA there? We have a representative from the CEC. CEC 10 is on the, but I think, yeah, just to like give you a preview of this, I was a PTA president in a former life, and I have a soft spot for PTAs. So I would love to be able to speak to a PTA, but we need.
So we don't have PTAs anymore. We have parent coordinators. We'll definitely connect you to the PC. Carla, if you could just put this down and we'll circle back with
That would be
you and
great.
Fernando. Yeah,
It's really interesting. Okay.
Good.
yeah.
All
They're
right.
actually paid positions too, by the way.
That's great.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's great.
Yahira, go
Yeah,
ahead with.
It's like the worst paying, being a PTA president is the worst paying position in the world, right? It's like takes years off your life and you don't get paid for it.
Right, you hear all the
No,
complaints.
no, I'm sorry, but I'm a grandmother. There are PTAs. There's still PTAs. The parent coordinator works with the PTAs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there are PTAs still.
Okay,
Right, great. But we, Chad, to your point, we'll happily speak to them and we'll definitely reach out.
Thank you.
Yahira, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Nate, for presenting this. I know you're gonna have to come back a few times to deal with all of us. Because this has been a project that's a long life dream. I've been living in the area for, you don't want to know how long, how many years, and it's still, something we definitely want to see. My question is, aside from these timelines, are there any contingency timelines that we will need to know about?
I'm not sure I'm following, so I want to be able to answer your question. What do you mean by contingency?
So the schedule you showed, if things were to
Oh, I
shift,
see.
or is there backup dates? Is there a backup?
Yeah, there is.
If it doesn't happen to be in the spring of 2023, is there a contingency timeline after that?
Yeah, so this, one way to look at this is it's a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. And the reason we want to be able to do it as quickly as possible is because we want to go, so much has been talked about the Armory in the past. There's obviously been 2 attempts at redeveloping the Armory that haven't worked out for a number of reasons. And so we want to get beyond, we want to get into like the next stage, but do it in a conscientious way. So take some time, but not a ton of time, and get down the vision, what the community wants. If this slips for some reason and like we have to do a little bit more work and take a little bit more time, we would first, I think we want to make sure that the community working group is on board with that process and make sure that they're, they want to be deliberate with the time, but we want to get to that next stage and get to like, here's what the community wants, and then get into the potential as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Nate? All right, we thank you for the presentation,
Happy to do it.
and we hope to hear from you again in the near future. And if there's any assistance you need from Community Board 7, please let us know.
Great. Thank you for the time.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
All right, we'll move the agenda. I see capital and expense report from fiscal year 23 and the reference guide for fiscal year 24. Now, I'm a little confused about when we're going to have a working session for this budget, so I'm going to ask Andrew. The last date I saw was a week from tonight. Andrew, can you clarify some of these things?
No, that's not where the conversation went. It was gonna start here and end there because you need 2 working days. You're not gonna finish it tonight.
Oh, I didn't know we were starting. Okay.
Well, yeah, that was
All right.
the,
So at this point, we'll move into our capital outlay, our expense. Andrew, which do you want to do first?
so Eric and Jaira have the document to edit as usual. Just, so I don't know who wants to do it, Eric or Jaira, in terms of that.
So what I was thinking in terms of this year's budget and capital items was that maybe we can just have the committees say what they would like to add and what they want to delete or edit from the list that we already have, because we typically tend to leave all of the items in. So I don't think we need to go item by item. I think we should just add to the list.
Okay, sounds good. Unless there's a group that wants to delete at this point. I know Parks who has more than a few requests. We went through each one at the last committee meeting and decided to retain all, and we had about 5 new requests. So I
Right,
don't know if the
so
other committees did the same thing, or, you know, if they're prepared to say, yes, leave in what's been there from our committee and we'd like to add or delete.
Barbara,
Yes,
I'm looking at what we did. We're probably going to take out, I know we're definitely going to revise. There's one thing that I need to revise in consultation with DEP to just make it more, you know, doable, or, you know, more appropriate language. I'll send that on to Yahira and to Eric. And then because there's things that people ask for, I'm looking at the items. These are the, I think these are, I'm looking at my list, expense items. The issue of the organics collection program. I have to go back to my other notes, and I don't have them. I apologize, I don't have them with me. But we're going to probably revamp 2 items, because it looks like the city is moving in a different direction. We looked at the response of the agencies, and where we thought that there was at least some wiggle room where they would say, you know, to, you know, continue to explore or something like that. We said, we'll keep it in. Where they definitely say, you know, there's no money for this. We're wondering whether we could find another route to achieve the same goal, because we don't want to, I don't want to put a lot of stuff into the budget that then are the kinds of things that we could probably ask through our city council for, but, you know, be that as it may. So I'm just going to.
How about this, Barbara? And this is I think this is a suggestion that Eric wanted to go in. If go through the committees right now, one by one. If anyone is not making changes and keeping what is already in existence, then we say, okay, keep. Parks keeps, we'll make a notation, those are kept. If there's any additions that we're adding on, email them over so that we can have them already in writing and that we can plug them in. And then once we meet again, they're already plugged in, we go through them,
Okay.
the adjustments, so that way it's cohesive, we already got it. We don't have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out.
makes sense.
Exactly, Yahira. That's
It's
exactly
Yeah,
my
it's,
point.
yeah, it was the issue of, because it has to be in the particular format that's required, you know, we have to find, we were finding, I just have a bunch of additional requests.
So then the answer would be for your, Betty, for your committee, you have changes. So we're gonna have to come back to you separately to get all your changes. And
Got it. All right, fine.
So then the next, then, you know what I mean? Like keep going to the
Yes,
committee.
yes,
Who
I
has,
got it.
who's
I got
keeping,
it.
who's not, and we move on. So that by next week, we get everybody's emails by the general, right? And by the time we meet again, everything we'll have it in writing, and all we're doing is plugging it in, making adjustments, and we're done.
Okay.
Did I ask one clarifying question? I got things on my list that are not necessarily under environment and sanitation. So how do I handle that?
And we'll what we can do is at the end, once we go over it, those that may be adjusted or added in other places, we'll just add them at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one thing I said, like, it doesn't have to be specific to your committee.
Right.
Right? It's always good to obviously organize around your committee, but input as a board member is input, right? So
Now, was it anyone's intent to go through the list tonight, starting either with expense or capital? Or was it just you're going to get emails before next Tuesday with any additions or deletions?
I think the intent was to figure out, if you guys are adding or deleting, to make sure that to send it over to us.
Okay,
Can have it organized. So by the time we meet next week, we move this faster. We don't have to say, where's your things? What do you want to add? What do you want to take away? We already have it and we move on.
All right.
okay.
Right, we don't have to go item by item,
item
but
by
rather, like Jahira said, Barbara, if you could call on the committees, and as part of their committee reports, they could say, we review the items and we want to
Right,
keep
well done.
everything, or we want to add.
Okay,
We have a few items to add that we're gonna send over. And Jahira and I can format it, and then we can review those items in particular in the next meeting, because I think last year we went through the whole item
Yes,
list.
we did.
yes, we did.
And we were very thorough with the language and all the other things that we
Right.
wanted to add. So there's no need to like
Redo it.
redo it,
Okay, sounds good. to me.
in my opinion.
Good. All right, sounds good.
Barbara, Andrew, and then Chad, but in that order have questions.
Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna, two things. One is, let's just quickly go by committee. Okay, education, youth, libraries, do you have anything tonight to say or whatever? Environment, sanitation, do you have anything to say tonight? Add or delete? And when you say add or delete, I mean, if we can use a reference like on page 118, priority number 7, so that we all know what you are speaking about. So I'm just trying to be more organized. Tonight, I think we should just go committee. Do you have anything to add or subtract and get it done?
Well, this is why we're asking to, if there's going to be removals, just email it to us what the removal is. We'll cross it out. We'll make a red line cross. So we
Okay.
know it's a removal, and those that are going to be added, we will know that those are additions, and we have to just discuss the additions. Because if the removals, we don't need to discuss, it's removed is.
But also keep in mind, you also need to discuss the agency's response, right?
Correct.
So try to also look through that independently, because you may be keeping something that the agency is clearly telling you it's not happening, or you need to go to your elected official. So there's no need to keep something just because you want it, because you're gonna keep getting
Right.
the same response. One
Right.
thing I suggested last year was that those things that need elected funding, that it get removed and sent in a letter format to the council member to review. And that's something that obviously, the respective committee should stay on top of. So if there is funding that needs to come from the council member, that you stay on top of that. Because if you leave something that they're clearly telling you is not happening on our end, you need to go here, then there's no point of keeping it.
So what you're saying is that the council member does not go over what we submit in this budget?
I'm not accusing anyone of
No,
not
no,
doing
I'm just
anything. I just
saying.
want to make sure we put an emphasis on our request. So if they are reading it, now they're getting an additional document, which is a letter requesting support for this specific item, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm
understand you're
saying, yeah.
Right, because I know in the past, there have been some council people who have said that, oh, when I have extra money, I always go through your requests and we try to pick out something or whatever. So I
Right.
just wanted to.
This is
make
just a
sure that
friendly
we're not doing
reminder.
this in vain.
Right. No, yeah. But just in
Okay.
case they're not, or they forget or get overwhelmed, they do cover large districts, and for the
Right.
most part, we're not the only community board. So this
Exactly.
is a friendly reminder that this is something that has been in the capital and expense request and has been deferred by this particular agency for outside funding because the agency cannot fund it, right? So in this point, what I'm saying to you is read the response and remove it if that's what it's saying. Because right now you're referring to us being redundant and keeping something that clearly the agency is saying they're not funding. So where would the council members see it at that point if we're removing it? So what I'm saying is take it out of there, put it in a letter and send it to the council member saying, this is what the agency responded. Is this something that you can help us fund?
Okay, so in all of that, why don't we do this? Those committees that are gonna be removing items because it goes to an elected official, just send an email or note letter to elective. So that way we know when we go through it, that is something the committee will have to deal with
Right.
in sending a letter to the elected official.
Mind you, it won't just be that, right? It'll be like, read the response, because it won't just be those instances. That's what I'm saying. Because there'll be some that'll tell you that, but there's some that you have to read the response because they'll tell you it's not happening.
Right, but this is what Aisha is saying is this is work that needs to happen throughout the year or after we finish this process.
Yes.
Not necessarily immediately, right? So, like,
Well,
for
the
example,
removal would be immediate, right? Because there's no point in
Right.
keeping something. Yeah.
So for example, on the housing committee, page 128, item number 31, the response was, this is not a budget request, which had to do with asking for additional personnel for DOB to enforce code violations and maintenance. So this request could easily be, we in the housing committee, we're gonna find another item, because we do feel that the DOB needs personnel. So we're gonna find the appropriate request to keep this item in the list.
Good. I know Parks is going to have a serious problem because all our capital outlay requests are never funded by the city. Expense requests, yes, but the capital, every year we get back, see your borough president or see your council person.
So then
And we would wash out all our requests, and I don't feel that that's fair to the public or whatever, to do that, because
No, what we're
it's a
saying,
sign of our
Barbara,
support.
No, but we're
what
trying
we're
to say,
saying, Barbara,
we can take those and throughout the year, those that you've gotten those response during the year, follow up with the elected officials and say, hey, we had this was the response, and we're coming to you to give us what we're looking for during
Right.
the year. So this way it's a constant on top of the elected official, because this is something that we want.
Right.
But to keep continuing to have it on here when we already know the response is to go to the elected official is taking up something that we can actually add, could be something else, could be a more
Right.
pressing thing.
Whenever one
but
of your
that's not-
capital
but-
outlay requests
but that's
are
not
not
to
funded
say,
by the
Barbara,
city, it's a problem.
Yeah, but that's
But-
not to say it's not important, but to take it out and follow up throughout the year with the elected officials, because
Well,
that's the response the agency is giving us. We can do that. We can continue to stay on top of them. That's why we have them there, to stay on top of them.
yeah,
we
but there
can
are 20 requests.
Right.
And we
But,
will have to
so,
follow up.
Barbara,
Eric, you understand?
Barbara, if I may,
Yes.
that doesn't mean that we need to delete them from this request now. We're just
Thank you.
saying, let's keep them for now, but make sure that we work on them as a collective with all of our officials throughout the year, from
Right.
now to the next September.
Because then by the next time it comes around, it may have
We
already
will
been
know,
taken care of,
we
and
will
we may
know
not need to have it.
exactly, we will know exactly what will be the outcome of that request.
Okay.
So just, I guess, we'll keep them in for now, and
Okay.
just be a little bit more we should be a little bit more proactive throughout the
To
year.
follow up a little bit
Right.
more.
So
Right.
Right.
trying
Okay.
something
Thank
new
you.
would definitely help. Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right, what's
Chad had his
going
hand
to
up.
accomplish tonight?
Wait, Chad had his hand up and we never.
Oh,
got-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds to me like this would be a good opportunity to archive some of our requests.
I can't hear you, Chad. There's a lot of static.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
What about now? You can hear me?
That's better, yes.
Okay, so quick comment and then I'll make my question. This gives us a good opportunity to archive some of our requests so we can come back to it. But I wanted to ask, because I know I have one that came from committee and one that came outside of committee. So are you guys requesting that each person submit their request, whether it's from committee or not committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Requests can come from any members. The reason why the preference came from committee is just a little more organized.
Right. And then who are the preferred recipients? Barbara, you,
No,
Always include the staff, but in this case, because it's a good
Yeah.
exercise for the board, Jahira and Eric, since they'll be working on the active document.
got you. Got you.
okay. Go ahead, Andrew, your hand is up.
Yeah, it's related to what Chad just brought up. So my question is, if we are, and it's not clear to me that we are doing it, if we are removing items tonight, there may be general board members or even members of the public who want input and would vehemently be against removing a specific item.
So Andrew,
that's-
that's what the public hearing is for. Remember
we
that this has to go after you guys vote and do all of that. There's a public hearing where the members of the public get to comment, and we share this beforehand so they can share their comments, concerns, or whatever prior to the vote.
Right, but if we remove an item, we are now removing that choice. They never even knew that that was a choice.
Well,
But it is, right? Because these meetings are all public, so it's a choice to participate prior to.
Right, for example, again, like in the housing committee, we review all of the items related to housing, and people were able to comment and say, leave this, change that. I don't know if that happened in the other committees, but it probably should have, I don't know.
We can always give a brief explanation why. We don't have to get into so many crazy details of it. We could just say it's no longer viable. It's to the elected official now. We can just make this short and sweet if we're
Right.
that to the public. We don't have to go into a whole slew of explanation and make this longer than it needs to be. We need to start learning how to compartmentalize and let the public know things in short, sweet, and move on.
Right, because these are open meetings. They can participate. So if they do have
Right.
some concerns, I mean, it's on the agenda. We send the link. I mean, we are feeding the information. It's a choice now
Yeah.
whether to attend or not, so.
Edgar, was
Because-
that your hand that went up a minute ago?
I guess I'm not being clear. So,
Oh,
okay,
I'm
right
sorry.
in, I have the printout of the list. You're telling me tonight we are not deciding to remove, I don't know, item number 3 from the capital budget. We are not doing that. That will still be there for other people to comment about whether we want to remove it or not. In other words, if they don't see it there, they don't know, if you remove it, they don't see it there, so they can't comment on it. That's my issue. Are we removing items tonight without the general membership and the public
No,
allowed?
Andrew,
Look at
no. What we're asking now is for every committee to tell us, okay, like Barbara said, she's not making any changes. Her stuff stays. Okay, so we are aware of that. Now, if you intend to remove, your committee decided to remove a certain item, we're gonna note it. Because remember, we're gonna meet to this again.
Right.
Until we get out. So we're
Next week.
we're gonna make a
Got it.
note. We're gonna make a note that this item is gonna be removed. Once we get there and we go to the public hearing, we'll say items A, B, C, D, and E were removed. Anybody has a question? Let us know. We'll give you a quick answer and move on.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Edgar, did you have a question? I can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm sorry. No, I don't. I was just,
Okay.
I had
I
to
have-
magnetize to see if I had my hand up. I didn't see it.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand go up.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. It came up at the Parks meeting. A request was made to improve the appearance of the islands along the Grand Concourse from Kingsbridge to the end of the concourse at Marshalloo by doing some work with the trees, removing the dead ones and cleaning up the base of the tree pits and whatever. And there was a discussion about whether or not DOT was already doing this and they had come up to Fordham Road. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, they've gotten as far as Fordham Road. They're on the south side of Fordham Road. They've been following up with what they want to do or what they're going to do. But as of right now, they're still working on the piece, I believe. I think they finished up to 167. I think they're at like 170 because there's multiple things they're doing, right? They're restructuring the cement barricades. They're redoing the lanes. They're adding planters. They're doing stuff with the bike lanes that really got to be discussed. But they're doing that process all the way. They started at 138th Street at the beginning of the concourse, and they're just working their way up. They don't want to start anything new until they finish what they're working on.
Okay,
So that's where it's at. It's not that they're not changing from Fordham up. Is that there were questions on, because they're still having issues at Fordham Road, right? Because they're trying to keep the bike lane and keep the bus stop. So what they were talking about was moving the bus stop up to Poe Park, which would leave more, because they can't really, the tunnel where Grand Concourse goes under Fordham Road, they really can't add anything to that lane. They can't. So because of the buses and the car lanes, it doesn't leave safe space for the bike. So I think they're trying to move that stuff further up. So there's a lot of stuff that's being planned and worked on, and they are planning to continue all the way to Mashula Parkway. They just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so does it pay for us to put it in the budget requests?
I don't think so, because
The money is appropriated, then you're saying?
we got, yeah, the money's already appropriated for what they're doing. I think that's the holdup, is the getting of the money, right? Because they're using what they have, so they can't invest in something until they've finished doing what they started. But they're like I said, they're progressing quite a bit. But it's just it's a big process, because some of the things that they're doing along the concourse is crazy. Because Tremont Avenue, they got elevator now, but now it's covered up because they moved the sidewalk. So it's crazy. It's a lot of work.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
But Barbara, we're not gonna see any changes maybe for the next like 3 to 5 years.
I'm sure.
North side.
It'll take at least.
If we're gonna play the short 3 to 5 years time.
Right. That's New York City for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to move the agenda, and it's my understanding now, as I go to the committee reports, you're going to say whether or not you're removing or adding or keep something as is, and you're going to email Yahira and Eric with any changes. Is that correct? As we report for the committees.
Correct.
Okay, and just to make it clear, I believe it's a week from tonight, we will be meeting for the second session of the budget. And that's at 6:30, correct? Okay, good, thank you. All right, we'll start with budget, personnel, and ethics. Andrew?
No changes.
All right, thank you. Education, youth, libraries,
I think Lodi's had to leave.
30s had to leave, okay. So
I'll send him an email.
okay, thank you.
Via email.
Environment and sanitation?
There'll be some changes made. It sounds like a
Okay.
song.
I'll follow up with an email to you too, Betty.
Absolutely, thank you.
Health and Human Services, Michelle?
So we're keeping the request that we had, and we have about 7 additions. So I will email Jahida and Eric.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, housing, land use, and economic development?
We're keeping the ones that we have, and we're just gonna edit 2 items.
Okay, good. Parks, Recreation, Cultural Affairs, we're keeping our items, and we have a couple of additions that I will email. One other thing, please keep the night of December 8th open. It's going to be the night for our tree lighting. It's a Thursday night at 6 o'clock. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to public safety and quality of life. Victor?
Hi, we'll be keeping ours, but we'll be adding some items as well.
Okay, thank you. Traffic and transportation?
We don't have any modifications at this point.
Okay, thank you. Veterans?
Yes, we're working on one possible change in committee, and I'm submitting one outside of committee.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, ad hoc doesn't have any additions for the budget. Okay, we'll move on. Any follow-up from last month's meeting that anybody wants to discuss? All right, the date I have listed here for our next meeting is.
Andrew has his hand up, Barbara, sorry.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, just regarding the list, and I don't think we ever resolved this. So this is a public document that anybody can look at, this citywide or whatever. So my question is the numbering system. At the top, it says priority, which implies to me that Bronx Community Board 7, the first priority is XYZ. The second priority is XYZ. And if that's true, if that's really what it's saying, then we have to be careful as to how we number these items. If it's not, and my suspicion is that it's not, because each department is different. So say Department of Transportation, we could have priority number 10, but for the DOT, it's priority number 1. So if we can resolve that in advance, I think that would be helpful. That's always been confusing to me. And I think it is important because it makes a statement as to, what does Community Board 7 consider as the number 1 priority in their community to be addressed?
Yeah, we asked that from DCP the last time, and the response was exactly what you said, Andrew, where it's like, yeah, you can number it, but it's going to mean something different to every other agency, So maybe right before the public hearing that could be expressed.
Well, this is why we're also gonna talk about this next week and put it all together so that by the time we do get there, we're all in agreement as to where those top priorities are.
Yeah, yes, that's a good idea, at least for the top 10 anyway.
Exactly.
All right, Ed, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I found out where to do it.
Okay.
Because basically, that wasn't like the longest part
Okay.
of the editing process when we started talking about which had priorities, which we wanted to be as a priority. Because I thought we did that during the last thing.
From what I remember, what took the longest that we focused on was the language. We needed to clear up a lot of the language. That took a lot of time. The priorities, we kind of discussed it and everybody just if I remember correctly, we took like a quick little vote and everybody, we were in agreement what 1, 2, 3, 4 through the whole thing was going to be.
Right.
Okay.
So can I make a
Chad, is that your hand? Go ahead.
So can I make a suggestion? If we're going to prioritize stuff, each department might have a number 1. So maybe we should group which is number 1 in each department and rank them by number. Like all the number 1s go first, all the number 2s go first. Or it's close to the T, but not exactly. Like if it's a health related request, a traffic related request, or parks related request, those could be looked at first and then whatever comes second.
Well, that became a problem last year because there was stuff that Michelle Avila was putting up that was very important, that was very up high on the priority, that would push back some of the stuff that I had on mine, right? Not anything because health and hospitals, that's kind of important, and there was some stuff that she had, I remember, that prioritized over what a lot of people had, so that's kind of hard to say because my number 1 traffic and transportation might not be as important as Michelle's number 1 because it's health and hospitals. It might be an elderly situation that needs to get addressed that might take more priority than some other stuff, and some of the school stuff because the kids are important too, so that everybody's number one might not have the same standing, is all I'm saying.
Right. I just think that we should, find out where the additions are, what the removals are. Let's get there first. And then lastly, we will do the ranking because we don't know what these additions are as of right now, right? We don't know what they are. So let's do step one. Let's get through the changes, the additions, put them in. And then the last thing we will do is do the ranking order so everybody's on the same page.
Good. Okay, all right.
These additions,
Correct.
one addition may be the number one thing. We don't know. So let's get through step one.
Right, okay, all right. Next item on the agenda, next month's meeting, I understand the general meeting is going to be on the 15th, so we have to change the date of the executive committee meeting. One date went out was the night before, the 14th. I don't know how many of the answers came back or how many people said they were available. Do we want to go with that date?
Barbara, sorry, for the 15th, so that's when my committee is scheduled for. So I'm okay with not having a meeting, but during our meeting this week, the committee expressed the desire to have like a workshop or a webinar. I'd like to do that in November, if that's possible. So is there an issue with that, or can we
No,
just?
if you can pick a date that works for you and the rest of the committee,
Okay, awesome.
okay?
Yep.
So are we going to change the date to the 14th, the night before the general meeting? Does anybody have any other suggestions?
Give me a second. Let me even look at the calendar.
Yeah, take a look at we moved the meeting to the general meeting. The third Tuesday is the 15th. So we were hoping to get as many committee meetings in before we have the executive committee meeting.
And also, Betty shared that she's not having a meeting, so November 1st, right, Betty, is open for anyone that wants to swap up. And Victor has a question, Barbara.
Okay, Victor, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Has there been any extension to the moratorium for virtual visits?
No, not yet. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. I've called the governor's office. I've called the mayor's office. I'm about to show up to City Hall. No, nothing yet. I mean, it's pretty normal for them to do a last minute too.
Yeah, the date is Saturday, which is strange. I thought it was going to be Friday, but no.
Yeah. I also share that I've expressed that the president has declared an emergency, like we're in the status of an emergency, which should motivate potentially the governor and the mayor, now that the executive order extends to giving the municipality discretion, which is a great thing, right? Because one size does not fit all. We're different than the other 57 counties, right? Because the 5 boroughs are the only ones that have community boards, right? But yeah, nothing yet. I'm so sorry. As soon as I hear something, even if it's over the weekend, you will get it from me.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
It's tough.
Yeah.
To plan ahead when you're not sure.
I know.
Question.
Okay, Betty, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, the reason we're moving execs, this is probably, that was, I was very confused about. I mean, I have a problem, I'll figure out.
Okay, the general meeting is the third Tuesday usually. All right, we have an extra week, and the next week is Thanksgiving, and we didn't want to have a meeting because of the holiday.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that week people go away and we never really get quorum. So that's why we just bump it up 1 week. And November and December are usually like the hardest ones, right? You have to shuffle everything around.
Right, exactly.
And even sometimes January, right? Just because the way sometimes it falls. So just be patient with us. We'll definitely shoot you an email. In this case, probably won't be here, but Carlo will definitely shoot you an email and we'll go back and forth until everybody's accommodated, I'm sure.
Is there anything we can do to kind of like spur the city to make a decision about the open meetings law and, allowing community boards to meet virtually? The only hybrid I would think of, here's my suggestion, would be allow the committees to be virtual and the general meeting be in person.
So the way the charter is written, the only meetings we are required to have are the general board meeting.
Right, I understand that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying.
So
that's a-
to your point, I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is like, because committees are not, sorry, I should have said that first.
Right.
Because they're not, yeah.
We should be able to do these virtually.
I would say write the letters to the state representative, like maybe writing a letter. I mean, I've done this, right? Like but it doesn't hurt to get like all the district managers, we wrote a letter to the state and to the city. You know, this was like before, you know, like I've mentioned this over and over. And we even attended a meeting, right, Barbara, where we expressed that to the borough president's office. I would say at the general board meeting, kind of put it together at the general.
So it would be letters from the community board or as individual? I mean, how do
I mean, there's force in numbers, right? So that's it. So board 7 sending it, right, versus all 12, right? So that would be, it would be best that it come from the borough president's office. So I'm sorry, I'm also thinking out loud here. I'm not necessarily like saying one thing or the other. So thinking out loud, I'm guessing writing a letter to the borough president to help those efforts would be best. Considering the oversight over the community boards, right, and asking the borough president to be the advocate for this would probably be more appropriate, because then we're sending letters to everybody and then those responses and it gets messy. So that would be my suggestion. CC and the electeds, of course, but I don't know. Any feedback on that?
all I'm, like I said, if we're not really required to have committee meetings, we have committees, again, why are we subject to having to have them? Why can't we be virtual? And
Because open meeting law says that any meetings done by the community board are subject to open meeting law, and open meeting law has not been amended to be,
So if it's at the discretion of the municipality, shouldn't the letters go to the mayor?
No. it
So
goes-
the governor, it should go to both, right? Because it's a temporary order for starters. Let me start there, right? The governor has granted the municipality that authority. The mayor went ahead and gave this date, right? But also understand that there's tons of pressures, right? Well, these are our needs. I think there's a fear of setting a precedent for other agencies, right? And for remote work. So I think that's the issue here, right? Like right now we're concerned about us, right? They're concerned about the bigger picture allowing this, right? So I think that's where the conflict is coming in. But there's no harm, no foul at expressing the needs of this individual body, right? Because we are this individual body, to the mayor to take into consideration, one, the hardships of finding locations, right? Considering not all boards are created equal, we're not all in city buildings, right? All these things are real. None of us can afford a hybrid option. That's not feasible, considering we're not getting assistance from the city of New York when it comes to IT services and just equipment. So all these things could be outlined in a letter. What I could do is I can work with Carla to draft it and send it out to the full board for additions, but you don't need a motion because I think we're all on the same page. Or we can go a little more drastic and go to a borough meeting or email the borough president and ask this to be an item on the agenda at a borough cabinet meeting for November, right? There are avenues here. I'm asking the board to kind of, think of those options, right? Because the borough president has what they call borough cabinet meetings.
Yeah, we don't have
Where
much
we can,
time, though.
we can request this to be an item.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would move to see that, I would like to see that put forth, for us to be more proactive about this rather than waiting to, when is it gonna happen, when it's not gonna happen. I mean, Saturday, come next week, we're meeting in.
Right, you're right.
I'm
Time
not
is short.
November, and then, it's scrambling again now to look for places come November, December. It's just getting ridiculous.
And it's hard, you know, I'll share that it's very hard to find spaces to accommodate us consistently because of, you know, COVID rules, fears, and then we also don't have an expectation of attendance, right? So it's very hard for me to say I'm gonna get 20 people when they're open meetings.
You know, and I've seen a greater attendance, at least my committee, virtual, you know, it's great, you know, to be able to have that kind of participation from the community. You know, it's very easy to access. I know that there are some issues with some, you know, but for the most part, it's been really very, very good.
All right.
So I know that, sorry, Barbara, I know
Go
that
ahead.
council members do join us. They will join us in October for a general board meeting. I think this is a good opportunity for, you know, how usually they give their spiel and no one really has questions at the end. This is something that we can kind of suggest and demand almost, right, from them as they're in the room, because now there's a public, it's a public space and we need the support. And as ex officio members and bodies that appoint the board members, you know, I think that what I'm suggesting here is that it be brought up at the general board meeting while they're on I'm sorry, I was gonna say Zoom, in person, and ask them to take action on our behalf and then follow up with them, because again, they are the municipality, right? They are the.
Fine, I'm down with that.
Sounds good. All right, to get back to the date for the next executive, I have a question about the public hearing for this budget. Is that going to be done prior to our November general meeting
How can we do that?
on the
It
15th?
usually is. It's done roughly an hour and a half before.
So that's the meeting that we do have the public hearing on. So maybe it would be wise the night before to have our exec, just in case we need some final workovers or something. What do you think? You know, we're going to meet next Thursday, but to have it like the night before to make sure things are the way they should be might be wise. Do we have a majority of this committee that is available the 14th?
The 14th might be an issue for me, and this
In person?
that's going to be the next question. If this is going to be in person, it's going to be tough.
I don't have an answer, unfortunately. I wish I did.
All right, can we set the date for the 14th? And then
that is the call of the board, yeah.
Do you feel that would work?
I mean, I'm going to go with the majority, but
It's a Monday, right?
It's a Monday, yes, the night before the meeting. In terms of trying to get as many committees meeting before that 15th date, we didn't have much room, really.
And are we doing
Any other-
elections?
Any other suggestions as to where to put the next exec?
and we have the election.
We have the elections also.
There's going to be a jam-packed.
The election will be on the 15th, right?
Yeah.
But that'll be during the general meeting.
Right, so.
I mean, it's only one election, so it should be.
Yeah, and once we get the budget straightened out after the public hearing, it'll just be a vote at the general meeting, yes or no, to accept it as presented. So, all right, any other options for this executive committee meeting?
Well, I'm just saying it's going to be alone because we're going to have the public hearing first.
Yeah.
It's going to go an hour and change, and then we're going into elections. So it's
Right,
gonna
and I'll give,
it's going to
as
be a
I said,
jam-packed
2
day.
minutes each person, right? And hopefully there won't be too
Yeah.
many questions.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for me to leave. If it's in person, it's gonna be really hard for me. I babysit. I don't know. I mean, it depends on where we have our meetings. It's just gonna be.
Well,
very-
it's difficult for everybody after 2 years of meeting online.
You know, but for me, it's only been because I didn't have to do this 2 years ago.
Okay, can we take a vote on the date of the 14th so we can move the agenda?
I think someone's.
Somebody have a question? I don't
Yeah,
see a hand up.
I think it's Chad.
Chad, go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't find my hand button. Do we have a vacancy for the prior week of the 15th?
I don't know, I don't have the calendar in front of
We
me.
have, the week before, November 8th is a election day.
Yeah,
So what about Wednesday and Thursday?
then you have Veterans Day.
Yeah, then
Oh,
Friday.
that's a bad month. It's a difficult
Yeah,
month.
it's difficult.
Yeah,
I know,
but-
when I only made one suggestion to you is because there were no others.
Right, exactly.
No, no,
That's why I was
I-
like, I would have given you like options, but then it was like, let me just give you the problems and let me
Yeah.
give you.
No, I understand.
That's why I was waiting for feedback because it's hard.
Yeah, could we tentatively go with the 14th? And then if we have to make changes in the next couple of weeks, we will? Or shall, or what? What's your feeling? Should we vote on this?
Wait, okay, so
I
the
say-
only
I said,
option,
yeah, I don't think we need to vote. I mean, if everybody's okay with the 14th, and if anything, then we just try to adjust as we go, but
All right, I haven't heard from anybody. Are
the
we,
week, we've always done it the week, the week before, we don't do it the week after. I mean, I know people go away.
well, the purpose of the exec is to prepare for the general, if we have any motions or whatever to approve or question or whatever.
So we can't do the meeting on the 29th, right? November 29th, we can't do the general board meeting on the 29th,
I don't know,
the week after.
for Thanksgiving.
I mean, people go away, but they have to come back. I mean, kids are back in school. It's not a week that, I'm just saying,
Yes, I know what you're saying.
and do-
Not impossible, but it would take us away from our usual, the third Tuesday, which may
Right, and
confuse
this is also,
people
this
too.
is taking us away from our,
It'll also create conflict to find locations as the holidays come in. So
Right.
let me share that. Like that's the problem, right? It's easier to move them up, and also just, and I'm also assuming that if there is an extension, it'll be a short one, and and I'm sure bumping up the meetings will help if you follow me here with open meeting law. With remote meetings, sorry.
I'm okay with the 14th and 15th. If
Okay,
needed. I mean, it is what it is. We're
all right,
gonna go in circles, and the biggest issue, like Aisha said, is gonna be trying to find a place to accommodate this whole thing, and we may not even know.
all right, so we'll keep it at the 14th then for the exec. I haven't heard from too many people, but we don't have many options.
Okay.
And from there, if it's online, fine, we can, take care of it that way, and it'll be like our last look at this budget before it goes to the public hearing. And
And
if-
just make sure you all follow up with each other, so it's not like messy the day of, like everything is kind of clean, everyone has received everything.
Right.
That's my suggestion, because since things are not remote anymore, just try to stay on top of it as much as possible.
Okay, and you'll let us know, Aisha, as soon as you hear about.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
extension. Thank
I'm
you.
the first one
Okay,
like that you
please,
will.
because that's a
I
problem.
literally got off the phone with the governor's office this morning.
And they still couldn't give a decision.
They were
because it
like,
has to come from the
Well, they
mayor.
have a new rep, right? So the transition doesn't help, right?
All right,
It's always like some shift, right? That doesn't like help us. But again, I we're on it. It's just,
Okay.
it's,
all right,
Yeah.
before we close then, is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up? Okay, all right, I thank everybody for their participation. And I guess we will see one another again on Tuesday, either in person or on line again. And we'll find out hopefully by Monday.
where's the general meeting gonna be held?
Carla?
At the Kingsbridge Library.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself fast enough. Yes, at the Bronx
Okay.
Library.
All right, Kingsbridge Library, 6:30 Tuesday evening, unless you hear otherwise.
That's the library, okay, this is not the one on Fordham, this is the one on 230 something street? Is that the
No.
one?
No, on Kingsbridge Road.
Bridge.
Right?
Oh, that one, because there is
Yeah,
a,
the main one in the Bronx.
oh, the main.
Oh, yeah.
There is a
See, that's the
Kingsbridge
confusion. So we
Library.
have Kingsbridge Heights.
Right.
Riverdale has Kingsbridge. I know. Sorry, if you
Confusing,
know what it
yeah.
is, we got so used to, there's so many names for that library, the Fordham Library, the Bronx
Right.
Library, but it's
used
really
to be
called the
the
Bronx
Fordham.
Library Center, but I think it
Right.
depends on when you move to the district, is what you call it.
Right,
All my
Okay,
life, to me,
All
all
right.
my life has been the
Kingsbridge
Kingsbridge
Library is on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what it is.
all
Yeah.
right, so hopefully we all arrive at the correct
Same
library on
place.
Tuesday.
I still,
All
The
right.
Bronx Library Center, the one, yeah.
That's.
Okay, right off Fordham Road there. with-
Fordham Road, just take Fordham
I wish
Road,
they would
Fordham
bring
Road and
Jake's back.
Kingsbridge, that's it.
Okay, good. All right, do we have a motion to close the meeting?
I move to
Motion to
adjourn.
close the meeting.
Close.
All right, we have a second for that?
Second.
All right,
What
all in
enthusiasm
favor?
to close it.